Welcome to the research induction session. First, what is the research? There are multiple definitions of research. People say the best definition till date was given by John Creswell. He said research is steps of creating a question, collecting the data to answer the question, and then answering that question. Actually, John Creswell is a French mathematician, biologist. He used to talk about research a lot. He coined the term research, which is a French word. That means just three words: question, collect the data, and answer your question. To categorize, there are multiple types, but I personally like to categorize them into primary and secondary research for easier understanding. Primary research is a type where you will go and collect the data, like the discussion we had with Dr. Saikiran, where we discussed data collection, how to collect the data, how to manage the data. Those things come in the primary research. Coming to secondary research, this is the thing which we are doing now, narrative reviews. It's all about collecting the data which was already collected by another person. So that's about the basics of primary and secondary. If you're collecting the data indirectly, which was already collected by another physician or a researcher, it is a secondary type. I personally also categorize research into basic science research and clinical research. Basic science research is most of a lab where you experiment on mice, or you will experiment on genomes, organ models, tissue models. That all categorized under basic science research. And coming to the clinical research, that is the research we do as physicians. The research we do as systematic review is a clinical research. It's called translational research. In clinical research, there are multiple other variations. You can remember the word translational research because systematic reviews and meta-analysis comes under that. And other parts of clinical research, cohort research, types of observational studies, RCTs, and also database research. List goes on and on. Let's look at the evidence-based pyramid first, because before we discuss anything about types of research, it's always better to look at evidence-based medicine pyramid, because this will give you a basic idea about what your research question will answer. This pyramid starts from expert opinions and it will go till meta-analysis and systematic reviews. As you climb the pyramid, the quality or the evidence and percentage of quality you're providing with your research increases a lot. So if you do a systematic review or meta-analysis, it's considered highest quality. Why? Because you're anyways going through different research works and summarizing all the findings in your work. That means you're looking at both positives and negatives of a topic. Because most of the researchers tend to be biased with their own opinions. For example, even let's say I and Dr. Palak are working on two research on the same subject. I'll say doing a robotic cholecystectomy is far better than laparoscopic cholecystectomy for obese people. But when Palak does it, let's say Palak is more of a laparoscopic surgeon. She has a lot of laparoscopic data. And she'll say, oh no, according to my results, laparoscopy looks better. These outcomes are better in laparoscopy. But as a systematic review of a third person who is looking at these two data, he can clearly describe which one is better in which aspect. Let's say aspect A, B, and C. Robotic is better in A and B. Laparoscopic is better in B and C. Then, as a systematic review expert, you will write it covering all these topics accordingly. And you will give a clear description about what you should talk about whenever you're considering robotic surgery, what you should look into, whenever you're considering a laparoscopic surgery, what you should look into. So that is the reason why systematic reviews and meta-analysis are considered high quality research. And also when it comes to risk of bias, so risk of bias reduces as you go down. I went through multiple sources to get this evidence-based medicine pyramid. This is a really good one. I wanted both of these to be presented in the same picture here. Here you can see it. As you go up, this quality increases, risk of bias decreases. As you go down, quality decreases, risk of bias increases. What is the risk of bias? We'll discuss it in basics of research section. Coming to the types of research. Primary research, I already explained. From a subject, you will directly collect the data. Basic science research, clinical research. In clinical research, there is something called as epidemiological research. If you look into your colleges, there will be a board department saying these are all the researchers we are conducting and all. And even when I was in my third year, there used to be a family health survey project where we used to go and collect the data. These all come under this primary research. RCT and non-RCT, big category when it comes to primary research. There are multiple risk quality assessment tools. There's a lot of different. I will not go into them in detail, but yeah, you can remember that these are the types of primary research. Coming to the next slide, in non-RCT, there is observational. Observational study is a broad category in non-RCT. There is cohort, case control studies. Even in case control studies, there are types like prospective studies, retrospective studies. Even cohort, we have prospective and retrospective. Coming to the cross-sectional studies, cross-sectional studies are short-term studentship studies in every country, where you will take 2 or 3 months of time frame and you will collect the data to come up with your results. There are surveys, there are interviews, there are expert opinions, and we saw expert opinions are the lowest in the category, but there are some research areas where you will have to go with expert opinion. There won't be any other question that you will choose expert opinion. There are letter to editors and commentary. These are gray zone. These are gray studies, you can say. They can be presented as primary and secondary research. In primary research, most of the people will write case studies in form of letter to editors. Because these days, a lot of big journals are not considering case studies as separate studies. So people, if it is a really interesting case, people are sending it as letter to editor. Let's go into the secondary research. This is a very broad category. I'll try summarizing it. So the first category, narrative reviews. With those narrative reviews, we know a lot of medical students are these days working on multiple narrative reviews. Initially, it was supposed to be by expert or senior author. We already discussed in the previous session, but I just wanted to repeat that point. Coming to the most common limitations of narrative review, it requires an expertise to write a good narrative review. Every person can write a narrative review, but the way we are discussing the results and the way we are concluding the results are important. We need to put our clinician perspective in mind and write discussion and conclusion. Because narrative reviews, thematic reviews, and meta-analysis tend to have a lot of citation. If people are after citation, these three are the best research. Coming to the systematic reviews. Systematic reviews are similar to narrative reviews, but there is a specific methodology you'll have to follow, which is Prisma guidelines. You'll have to follow Prisma guidelines to the core and systematically collect the data and analyze it and present it. Similar is the meta-analysis, same as systematic review, same Prisma guidelines and everything. The only difference is you'll have to do statistical combination. Meta-analysis are a little faster and more popular than systematic reviews because it is difficult to explain qualitative data than quantitative data. So systematic review is a little difficult to explain, but when it comes to meta-analysis, writing and other stuff tend to be easier. Last, perspectives. You can consider it as a type of narrative review, but a little advanced version of it. It will have a little depth about that area you're covering, and you will add your vision to it, how it can progress in future and all this. Most of the perspectives will come over AI in medicine. These days, you can see AI in medicine perspectives a lot. That's it. Thank you for listening.